Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we have an interesting podcast on the topic news recommender system, and with me we have Miss Shaina Rasa, and Miss Shaina has done a lot of work in this particular space, especially in news recommender system, and she had done his thesis on this particular topic, and she has significant experience as a data scientist in many topics such as NLP, deep learning, and in specific the news recommender system. So I'm really glad to have you in this particular podcast, Miss Shaina. Welcome.
Hi, John. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks. So I have a couple of questions for you today on the efforts which you have put across in the NRS domain, NRS field actually. So the first question is, what were the preliminary challenges you were facing when you designed this particular NRS system?
Yeah, thank you, John. So, like, there were certain challenges that are particular to the news domain. The number one challenge out of this is the data collection because there are hundreds and thousands and millions of articles coming every hour and day. And the second challenge is that user interactions change over time quite rapidly. Some of the user interactions are long term that reflect their habits or their long term interest, and some of the user interests are quite short term and they're abrupt and they change over time. So the data collection is a big challenge. Although I have specified a particular time frame during my research, that is the year 2017, 18, and 2019, and also there were some temporal gaps between the data collection. So it's a big challenge. And the third challenge is that the average consumption time of the news is very less, and also that diversity is too much required in the news recommender systems. For example, if you see the Netflix, and if you uh, getting the same kind of recommendation every time, that is tend to irritate you, that is tend to bore you. So the same thing also happened in the news, that too much personalization is not good. The user may get bored of reading similar news. Another problem is that if you don't specify diversity in the news recommender system, so what will happen? User will get trapped in echo chambers or filter bubbles. Filter bubbles are basically ideological isolation in which the user get trapped in a bubble in which they get all the news that coincide with their own opinions. So this slide, this is basically a real-time scenario I tried myself. So what I'm trying to find, I try to find something about the COVID-19 response, and what I get something that is very similar what I've seen in the past and similar to each other. So we find that the problem is in the recommender system is not the information overload problem actually, but it's the filter failure, and that's one of the motivation behind this PhD research.
That's actually great to know. And what you said is true actually. So when we are in that particular bubble, we are actually getting everything related to that. So that's a great observation actually. So yeah, that's true. Then yeah, like on the models or the algorithms which you have actually used. So which are the prominent ones you have actually handled during this design?
Yeah, so during this research, the three type of, this is the conceptual framework of the proposed work that I have considered: the news articles, then user interactions on the article. I consider recency, diversity, relevancy, and user long-term, short-term, diversified interest. In terms of the model, so I use a blend of the simple machine learning models and the deep neural networks. The reason is that I want to see that in using which approach we get the better results, and what are the pros and cons of using different type of models during different scenarios. So the first attempt in this regard is to use a biased matrix factorization model. The second attempt in this regard that I feel one of my great contribution is to develop a latent factor model that is also regularized. So I think in the news recommender research, this is one of the first work in which a model has been regularized to incorporate accuracy and diversity at the same time. And the third attempt in this regard is to develop a deep neural network that can also perform the work that the previous model had worked, and it consists of more dynamic and more layers and more parameters, more hyperparameter tuning. The idea is just to get a blend of different kind of models and to update ourselves for the research and to solve the problems at the same time.
Got it, got it. So, out of these three, like, I don't know, like, which one have you felt like the real game changer? Is it the deep learning approach?
That's true. The deep learning approach is a real game changer, and I think that is using the deep neural network approach. I can claim that I'm able to incorporate more data features. By data features, I mean more features related to the news, and for example, the news article, news title, news body, news taxonomy. There's so many features, and I'm also able to incorporate user interactions in a better way. So I think that's a really game changer. I agree with that. And if you see this diagram, so basically in my deep neural network, there were three important parts. The first one is the news component. The second one is the reader component, and the third one is the recommendation model. Compared to that, the previous model that I have proposed, that there was just one model, but I mean, this deep neural network is more extensive. If you see this deep neural network, so at the very bottom we get the news articles, and we include different type of news information. I would say that one of the contribution here is that normally people just include the news ID or the news title. In contrast, I include news title heading, news snippet, that is the news body, and the taxonomy, that is the category or the subcategories, because they do make an impact. Like in which category, for example, sports, and inside the sports, if I'm interested in the soccer, these things do make an impact if you include this kind of information. So the first layer in this regard, in this green boundary, you see there's the BERT layer. BERT is a like a model that had make historical performance in the history of the search engine. So we have also included the BERT embeddings. And however, in this work, we only included the token level embeddings of the BERT. Like there are also other embeddings, the position embeddings, the segment embeddings. I just included the token level embeddings. On the top of that, you see there's a CNN layer that I use to capture the local context from the text. For example, if there's a headline, let's say thousands of people died of COVID-19. So the word thousand and of people and the COVID-19, when they are in a segment, in a phrase, so it is important to capture the local interest of the user and the meaning of the news. So that's why we use the CNN layer to capture the local interest. And on the top of that, you see that I have used the word level attention. The idea is to select important words from the text. So normally in a news, what happened? There are certain stop words that normally the other machine learning models, they remove them and they think that they're not important. But I think they are important. For example, the word this, the, if used before a particular word, that makes an impact. For example, I say this pandemic. So in these days, this pandemic means COVID-19. So it's important to capture those local level words. We need to pay attention to that. And after all these efforts, I designed a news level attention layer. The goal of it is to attend to different part of news information differently. For example, if I have a news article whose newsline heading is more important than its news body, then newsline heading should be paid more attention. So we need to figure out which part of the news is more important. It doesn't mean that we are going to remove the other parts of the news site information. It just means that we learn to pay attention to different part of the news information differently. So at the end of this model, this subneural network get a final news representation that consists of token level embeddings, local context that have paid different attention to different words, and that have paid global attention to different piece of information, and then that is passed to the next level. If you show the slide, the reader module. So this is the reader module. This is also one of the contribution of the work because we need to model the reader interest. So basically, if you see the LTI that show the long-term interest. So what I did, we take the whole interaction history of the user, and we say that these reflect the long-term interest. This is true. Like if I have been a fan of some particular celebrity or some particular personality, it's true that I have been reading about that fan of some sports. So I will be reading the sports related news many times during my lifetime, or at least in the last 10 years. So the idea is that the user whole history can be used to reflect their long-term interest. And then there are also some short-term interest of the user. For example, right now I'm interested in the weather news because I need to go outside after 2 hours. I may be interested in the political news, what's happening in my country. And in the evening, maybe I'm interested in the entertainment news. So we need to capture these kind of interest. And then the diversity, this is very much important. So if you see that we consider the user long-term interest, user short-term interest, and also their diversified interest through the attention mechanism. The paper is giving the details of all of these things. And then we take the dot product with the news representation that we have calculated during the last phase in the news modeling, which is shown in the last slide. And then when we take the dot product between the reader representation and the news representation, then we are able to predict the next news that the user will click, or at least we recommend them the next item that the user is likely to click. And this is the recommendation component.
Got it. Got it. That was actually quite explanatory, and I have a couple of questions on this. Like,
Mhm.
so basically, as you said, like you are using the individual components of. So let's say you are using the token level embeddings coming out from the board. So my first question is like so anyway that entire architecture actually comprises of all these components. So is there any specific reason that you actually subsetted from that and stacked it in this way actually by adding a CNN layer in between?
Yeah. I mean, that's a very good question because during the review of this paper, I have been asked this thing that why didn't you use the whole BERT model
Hmm.
for the same purpose? There are many research gaps that I find in the BERT model or the other like more robust model than this one. They are better models. The reason is that the news recommendation problem that I defined in this work is very much specific. And I just needed the token level embeddings. I didn't need the segment embeddings or the position embeddings. I need the CNN layer to capture the local interest or local level words in the text. So that's why I use these individual components to check that how it works. I could have done the same thing with the BERT model or the related model that are quite famous these days. But the thing that is lacking in those model is the user modeling component.
Hmm.
So even if I use that, even like you must be familiar with the paper BERT for Rec, and one of the limitation of the paper is that they don't have a proper user component. They're just using the user IDs to represent everything, all of the user interest. So I think that that is a great contribution in that particular field of movie recommender system. But for the news recommender system, I think I would never be able to make good recommendations if I didn't incorporate different type of site information, if I have not used these kind of the different layers and stacking them. So I think the problem defined here is the main thing. Like if I go for the hype of the models, then I may have missed many things in the recommendations. So that's the reason. My focus is more on the user modeling component. So that's why I stack up these layer and then take the news representation to the next level. That's the key.
That's actually a brilliant way of thinking, basically. So, I actually seen couple of architectures similar to this from like prior to BERT, we have this BiDAF structure where we mainly leverage Elmo and everything. So I've seen something like as a stacked component like this. So, but this is really great actually by utilizing the exact component you require. So yeah, so my third question is like yeah, so basically to crawl the information, like which of the search techniques are being commonly used actually in your system?
So like in my case, I crawl the data using the New York Times API. I get the tokens and the password. I mean, everyone can have that. And then I use a Python package I mentioned in the slides. That's a very good one. I use that to have the crawl data in a more tabular or structured way that I want it. So that's a simple thing. And in terms of the news scrolling time, so I specified GA 2017 and 18 because this research work is mostly performed in year 2019 and 20. And although there were some temporal gaps between the data, that is one of the limitations. And there are the reasons that why there are the temporal gaps because we had the limited resources. We could only crawl certain I mean during the certain times and the certain number of the articles. So I think that's very simple. Anyone can use the New York Times API and you can use these packages. For example, this invite times comments. There's another one, a newspaper package. Anyone can use them to crawl in a more structured way. And the other data set is the Mind Small that is released by the Microsoft research team working on the recommender system. And that is a benchmark data set that is released in year 2019. And the thing is that when I crawl the data during the year 2018, during the year 2019, the Mind data set was not released. And when I write these papers, and then I mean, those paper went for review. So I have been asked to compare and I mean to include some other data set as well. So luckily, the Mind dataset was released that time. It has two versions, Mind Large and the Small. So whatever the resources available to me during that time, and I use the Mind Small. And one more thing I like to mention here is that in the New York Times datasets, I get the user interactions in the form of user comments that are explicit feedback. So I use the sentiment analysis to convert those comments into ratings, into 1 to 5 star rating. So that was more explicit feedback. For the Mind Small, there are not any feedback data in terms of like explicit feedback data. They do have the feedback data, but that is the implicit feedback data. By that I mean the Mind data set consider more of the user interactions that which articles user clicked, which articles the user have not clicked, and how much time the user spent on some articles. So these are some implicit indicators of feedback that, for example, that also show the user interest. For example, if I click certain news, they definitely show my interest. And if I've spent some time on some news articles, they definitely show my interest. However, there are also some new challenges here that is called the negative implicit feedback that has not been addressed by any of these work. So that is one of the future direction, and I'm looking forward to work on that as well. Because sometimes it happens that I have been spending 5 minutes on reading a news article. The thing is that it might not be exactly the indicator of my interest. Thing could be I have my news article open and I'm working something else. So these are some of the negative implicit feedbacks. Other thing is that if I am clicking too many news articles, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of these news articles are of my interest. The reason could be that I have been clicking on those news articles because I didn't find a news article of my interest or what information I have been looking for. So these are some negative implicit feedback that has not been addressed in the research of the news recommender system so far, and there's a future direction for many people to work on.
Got it, got it. And you might be getting a lot of noisy articles as well, right?
Yes, exactly. That's correct. Yeah.
So yeah, so this is something which I really like got a mind on it, like how you are tackling the over personalization of this particular thing in this your design basically.
So one thing I want to mention here is that when I start working research on that and I read all the big, I mean, papers from the big conferences and the journals on the news recommender systems and even the recommender system, what I find everyone is focusing too much on accuracy and personalization. Basically, if a recommender system is more accurate, it is like addressing more of the user interest and their feedbacks. That's a good thing. But one thing is that there is an over personalization that is being ignored. Everyone is running and competing for the high accuracy, but what is happening? We get over personalization. And a very simple example of this you can see on the Netflix. That's not a news recommender system, but you see the over personalization that if you have three logins and the three different people in your home, and you will get in one of the particular logins, you get over personalized by the same kind of recommendation. But over personalization in movie recommender system is, I would say, is not a threat, but in the news domain, it's a threat. You see that what happened in the US election 2016 and 2020. The people listening to like one particular news channel or reading one particular type of news from one domain, let's say CNN or some other domains, BBC. So you see that they are being overwhelmed by the same kind of information. So this is a threat in the news recommender system. Now your question is that how I limit that? I limit that by including the diversity. During my research, I didn't knew it before, but during my research, I find that there is a trade-off between accuracy or personalization diversity. When one goes up, the other goes down. So my idea is that to if the accuracy is 90%, let's move it down a little bit and move diversity up. So there's a trade-off between them. So this is the part of my deep neural network, and here how I incorporated diversity. I use the attention mechanism. So basically, the what the attention mechanism do traditionally, it take all the words or the user clicks in this regard in for the reader model as the queries, and then calculate the concatenation of them to find the most related information. So what I did, I basically used an LSTM network before the attention network, and there is a particular property of the LSTM network, the orthogonality property. So with the orthogonality property, basically what happened, the vectors, the context vectors that are produced are orthogonal to each other, perpendicular to each other, not similar to each other in simple words. And when this information is passed to the attention network, it already have obtained something that is diversified or not similar orthogonal. So after the attention network, the uh, diversified reader clicks that are being picked are not similar to each other. So this is my one of the idea. I experimented with that and it worked. Because normally people are just using the attention network directly. So that attention network is not going to give you the diversification. You have to devise some way that we need to give something to the attention network that is little bit different or perpendicular. So I use the LSTM network with orthogonal property, and my paper is have all the details for that. So this is one of the way I have the diversity. And one more most important thing I want to mention here, in recommender system research, people are working somehow on diversity, but they do during the evaluation time. That means that they first have all the recommendations from the recommendation engine, and when the model go to the diversity, then what they do the re-ranking of the recommendation list. And the problem with the re-ranking is that, especially in the news domain, is that there are millions and billions of the articles. And during the re-ranking, if you start re-ranking the list or the recommendation for each user across your domain, it will be an exponential task and it will become an NP hard problem. So my idea is that don't do during the evaluation time. If you want to work in this real-time domain, for example, the news or some other domain, do it during the optimization time, during the model training time. That is going to save your time from exponential re-ranking and efforts. So the thing is that if this neural network is the black box, and we, if you see the layers, as I also show in one of the previous slides. So the thing is that all of these models are made to reduce the loss between the predictions and the actual. The predicted and the actual ratings. And this is happening. I mean, everyone is familiar with the loss function. So my idea is that in this research, throughout this research, my PhD, that you need to modify your loss function that it does not give you 100% accurate or personalized stuff. Instead, it includes some level of diversity during that optimization phase. So that's my idea. And that's, I think, is one of the unique contribution I have not seen in any of the latest work in the news recommender system so far.
Got it, got it. That's actually a very distinguishing feature, I would say, like because when it comes to recommendation, everyone wants that specific personalized information. But yeah, like over personalization is also a threat actually in these cases.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this part, like, how are you handling the bias in this particular thing? Because that's a very important one, which comes actually in any of the model development.
Exactly. So, like normally in the NLP models, we can handle biases at two places. One phase is that during the dataset time, you remove the biases during the pre-processing time, and the second is that during the actual modeling. So, in my work, I remove the biases during the actual model time. Although the same thing can also be performed during the dataset time that I plan to do in the future. So, like basically, what I did in my matrix factorization model, uh, I included the bias terms. So, basically, the idea is that in a recommender system, any recommender system, there are two important entities: the users and the items. The item can be movies, news, or anything, and users are the users. So, how the recommendations are produced when the user and the items interact with each other. So actually, what thing happened that the user, when the user interact with the item, is not exactly the user. There are some biases as well associated with the user. For example, the tendency of a user to give lower or higher rating than actual to a certain item. For example, the user mood during a particular time of rating. He may not be in a good mood or very good mood, so he may rate the item accordingly. In the same way, there are certain item biases also attached. For example, the popularity of the item. For example, an item that may be very good. For example, let's say a movie in a Netflix, but that is in a long tail. By long tail, I mean that is still in the very back and it has not been picked up for the recommendation. So these are some biases attached with both the item and the user. So my idea is that for a particular user, we take the rating of the user, and then we for that particular user we take the average of that user on all the items to see that what is the user general rating, the average rating, and then we take the average rating of the item uh, from all the users and to see what is the average rating of that item, and then what we do basically, we try to subtract those biases from the actual rating of the user. For example, like there is a user, so like that user has for example has given zero point 0.2 rating. Okay, let's the user have given zero point 0.5 rating less than on average that the item deserves, so we need to abstract that thing. And similarly, an item that has obtained too high rating, and that may be because of the popularity bias. So we need to subtract some portion of that. So that was my idea, that during the modeling time, we take the global rating of the item, we take the user bias and the item bias and subtract them from the global rating to have the actual rating of the user. So that's the way I did. Although there may be other ways during the data set pre-processing time, but I performed that during the data modeling time.
Got it, got it. So yeah, so basically that covers some of the basic questions actually, and a couple of questions on the other future opportunities and a couple of other challenges. So like when it comes to news domain, like we have a lot of challenges. This is something which I like got the information from your thesis paper. So like on the conception time lifespan, and one thing which struck on, like from my understanding, is on the lifespan. So when we are actually training a model with the finite data set which we have, how well we can actually go on with this particular parameter of lifespan.
So the lifespan is more related with the recency. And obviously, like in the news domain, the recent items make a huge impact instead of including those ones that are still. So I think this is something related to the publication of the timestamp, the lifespan, and that has to be included during the news modeling time, before the reader modeling. This is something important, like during the time when we have the when we consider different heterogeneous information related to the news article, we have to consider the recency during that time. There are a couple of the ways that how you include that lifespan, normally in a news domain, the research shows that item stays on the shelf for 36 to 48 hours, so we need to give more weightage to them,
Got it,
those
got it,
news items.
got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, on the algorithm part, anyway, you have detailed actually the deep learning based approach which you have taken, and yeah, like I'm interested on the metrics part actually. Like, so basically, as you said, you have plugged in the diversity element along with it, and there is a significant trade-off between different parameters you have chosen. So which one you found it very necessarily like it's required in the case of news recommender system out of these performance metrics?
So out of this performance metric, accuracy is obviously number one thing that every researcher and the designer and the practical, scenarios they must consider. Without accuracy, your model is nothing. Although, we should consider other beyond accuracy metrics. That was also my research. By beyond accuracy, I mean novelty, diversity, coverage, serendipity, and the user experience as well. So in my work, what I did basically, I designed a new metric by the name trade-off, in which much of the portion is given to the accuracy and a little portion is given to the beyond accuracy. And then I try to give different weights to the accuracy and the beyond accuracy metrics to see that how it works and how I get a blend of recommendation that are personalized as well as diversified. So obviously accuracy is irreplaceable. You cannot remove that, and the other are not, I would say, mandatory, but including them is good. That would be a good approach.
Got it, got it. So yeah, so a couple of questions on the implementation hurdles actually. So anyway, you have mentioned about the data set. So the second one is on the data duplication part, like how it is handled.
For the data duplication parts, one of the good approach is that we take the cluster of the news articles. This is something before our model is built, during the pre-processing time, and then we can use some simple measures as well, like using TF-IDF to calculate the similarity between the articles and remove those that have a similarity above a certain threshold. This is the way I perform that. Although there may be some other ways, I perform that during the data pre-processing time, and I use simple clustering and TF-IDF to see the similarity threshold.
Got it, got it.
Hmm.
So even another question actually. So this little yeah, like I found it really tough actually. So basically, two news articles talks about an event, okay, but it is in two separate. Like the paragraph will be different or the article will be different.
Yeah.
So it's a very tough problem which I find actually. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the semantic similarity or these kind of things, this is, I think, a very promising research direction for the researchers who want to work in this domain, and I will definitely work on that. I totally agree with you. Sometimes it happens that the same articles is written in different language. By language, I mean in different tone, way of writing, because two different people write the same thing differently. So this is something also that need to be tackled. I agree with you, and this is a very promising research direction.
Yeah. So next one is like on the quality of recommended news. So is there any kind of feedback which is feedback mechanism in your loop basically, so that like over the period of time you'll be able to improve the data from the user point basically.
In terms of the quality, there may be many measures. This is a subjective term. I have used some fake news detection methods, and in terms of quality, I also consider concept drifts, data drifts. For example, in news that is, for example, news that is real at a certain time may become fake news after certain times. So I consider basically the concept drifts and data drifts, and I evaluate the quality in terms of the fake news language. But there may be other measures as well. I truly say that is a good research area that needs attention. That's a good point.
Got it. So in terms of scalability of this particular solution, like currently whether it is hosted or like how is it where the model is sitting basically?
So in my case, I use the cloud services and the GPU provided by the cloud services, and I must say that I was not able to perform these tasks without paying to those cloud services. So although like as the PhD students, we get some grants and we are able to cover that, but that is an issue. The scalability is an issue. And even though that I had a large disk on the cloud and I had a good GPU, but still there was a point then I need to truncate certain part of the news and the user interactions. Let me give you a very simple example. Like if you see the BERT model, that can only include the sequence up to 512. And if you see the long former, that can have a longer sequence. So in a news article, normally news body is greater than a sequence word sequence of 512. They are more. So long former suits more. So these are some of the challenges that I needed to work. We need to change the data loaders of the model. But now comes the hardware and these resources. So the more disk, the more GPU, more memory, the better your model will work. The batch size of during the training, that makes a huge impact. So these are some things that we have to very carefully tune and we see, and I have struggled with that. And there are many things that I learned myself. For example, that which batch size to use, which data size to use, how much model I need to use for the a part of the data set I need to use during the training. So these are some of the aspects, and scalability is a huge issue for the recommender system. So I had a talk with the CNN data science team, and they told me that basically what they do, although they have very high level GPUs and the disk, and they are not short of any memory or these resources. Most of these, even these companies, they train their model offline and then they bring on the production and then they periodically train it. There's certain part, for example, that was an incremental training. So these are some of the things that we need to consider to mitigate the scalability issue in the news domain.
Got it, got it. So that was quite informative actually, and yeah, that covers all the questions for today. And once again, I would like to thank you, Ms. Shaina, for spending this much time explaining all of these concepts, and like it was really informative. And good
Thank you
luck,
very much.
yeah, and good luck with your future research on this particular topic. And it's pretty impressive actually what you have done so far. And I would say like yeah, it's a pretty interesting one. And I wish you good luck for your future research and works
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I'm open for any questions. My LinkedIn email address, or I can share with you. And if anyone want to collaborate with me for any of these future directions, I'm very much open to that, to discuss it more and to work on that.
That's great.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot, Shaina,
thank you.
and thank you all for watching this interesting podcast. So we'll be coming back with an yet another episode of this D4 Data Channel podcast. And thanks a lot for watching, guys. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.